And good morning, everyone. I have got to find my fizz. I've got to fill my coffee cup, and you've got about a minute to get yourselves ready. We're going to be talking steampunk later on this morning, so join us for your creative comments first, and then about a quarter after, we've got Bonsart Bokel, and you're going to really love this guy. Anyway, stay tuned for Nevermind the Furthermore.
10 seconds.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
How dare you!
Welcome to Nevermind the Furthermore, your morning dose of creative conversation and coffee with your host, Brian K. Morris, independent publisher, freelance hybrid author, award-winning playwright, Facebook famous YouTuber, and former mortician's assistant. Get ready to start your day off right.
And good morning, everyone. How the heck are you? Welcome to Nevermind the Furthermore for Wednesday, April 27th, 2022. And like I said, we've got a really, really special episode this morning. We're going to be talking steampunk with Bonsart Bokel. And he's a recent acquaintance of mine. I did an interview with him just recently on his, which you can see on his YouTube channel. Look up Radioretrofuture. It's a beautiful, beautiful page. And please like and subscribe to that, okay? It is good. It is worth your time. But anyway, steampunk is not just an American thing. Let me get my tassel straight. It's a global phenomenon. We're going to learn more about it this morning. And we hope you'll come up with some great questions for my friend Bonsart, as we are going to start the day, first of all, with the attitude of gratitude. First of all, thank you to the Rising Tide Publications organization, of which I have a small part in. It's my wife's, really. But anyway, please check it out. We've got all kinds of great books available on Amazon and Smashwords, including the soon-to-be released The Terrors. So go to my my Amazon author page and see all the books I'm involved with. You'll have something to read, such as the brand new Major Marjorie, created by Tim Bruckner, with myself, Clyde Hall, Jim Beard, and Lesia Kent. It's a good book. I think you'll like it. If you like old-time radio and classic sci-fi, this is the book for you. Also, check out The Blue Circle, The New Adventures of the Blue Circle, with myself, James Blakey, and Quentin A. Castle, edited by Cookie, so you know it's good. And while you're checking those out, also check out PlasmaFireGraphics.com. Plasmafire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you. Did you dig those images? I knew you would. They could be on your book or something very much like it, if not better. They do great work at Plasmafire Graphics, and I've worked with them a couple times on some various book projects. They can handle all your graphic needs to help you sell that great book of yours. So go to their Facebook page and give it a like. Also, then go to PlasmaFireGraphics.com and check out all that they do. And it's a lot, and it's all at indie creator-friendly prices. It's Plasmafire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you, because it definitely matters to your readers. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters who keep the Rising Tide mission going forward. Also, check out their pages, because many of them have some great, and I do mean great, projects of their own going on. And right now, we're trying to decide, what am I going to write next novel-wise? And if you pledge $5 a month and up, you get a voice in that. The deadline is May 6th. And after that, we start writing. Anyway, please check out our Patreon page and see what we do for your financial support, which we appreciate greatly, at www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris. And now we're going to do a few of your comments to get in the mood here. And like I said, when we bring our guest out, please have some questions ready. I know you will. And Michaela Jade is first in the door. 905 slides and sideways. First in the door. What's up? What you working on? I am editing The Terrors right now. I've just started chapter 7. Making sure everything works out. And I know Michaela's got a book in pre-order, and I know she's going to tell us about it. And that Michaela, she beat us all in here today, is Carl Witzman. Carl, good to see you. And Michaela mocks us with her laughter. And your workout marketing now, right? Got an elevator pitch for Warriors Honor. Yes, the brand new book. Check it out. Coming soon to Amazon and other venues near you. And good morning, Brian. Also morning to your guests and all creatives today. Teresa Dunn, glad you're here. Well, hope the morning's going well. Give Albert our best. And there we go. Carl Witzman is helping Michaela with her marketing there. And hey, Teresa, says Carl. And Joe Bachman, good morning from the beautiful town Lafayette, Indiana. Well, what a coincidence. That's where I'm holed up, getting ready to drive back from a field office down here to NWI, that's Northwest Indiana. And morning to you and Michaela from Teresa. And Nicola's on a mission to end the big chemical company come hell or high water. Only trouble is she's about to drown. Dalton never thought he'd find his life mate near death and still in danger. Very good, very good. And Joe, stop by and make sure Brian is awake already. Yeah, good luck with that. And how's that, Carl? I think it's good. And I'd almost a blurb for the back of the book. I'd say I'd agree with that. And oh yeah, I need to be. And good day to you. You just hold your water there. I'm getting to you, Radioretrofuture. Go to that YouTube page. Check it out. There's a lot of great entertainment on there if you're into steampunk at all. And some really good interviews, too. Nick Tucker just did one recently. And since Brian has a guest today, I'm going to fade into the background, let all of you talk. And good morning, Donna, Carly. Mwah. And if I knew his address, I would stop by really quick before I head back north. If I knew you were in town, I'd let you. And everyone's saying hello. Hello, Radio and Donna. And Joe, considering he's probably not got his pants on yet, I'll spare you that. I've had my pants on for many minutes now. So, because I've got a guest. You never know when I have to stand up. And Callie is lying on Donna's spare humidor and watching the street. And thank you for that. Joe, you're not ready for it, believe me. And everyone's saying hello to each other. Hey, good morning, Skunk Rocker. Mwah, glad to have you here. And from the National Small Press Publisher, always glad to see you, Joe DeFee. 10 p.m. Saturday evenings. Great stuff on comics. Everything is groovy. Joe, hope you can say the same. And Truck, says the Skunk Rocker, was 4 hours late today, and I've only gotten to my second stop. Eek. Normally, I'm back at the warehouse reloading for trip number 2 by now. So, yeah, bummer, huh? Just another thing to add to the pile of bad happening to you this week. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I should get back to work. Well, anyway, we're sorry, just like Carl says here. And we hope the rest of your day goes better, Skunk. We really do. And Charles Millhouse, we were saying nice things about Major Marjorie. He's the publisher and editor of that book, by the way. Please buy a lot of stuff from him. And we'll see you at the Pulp Fiction Convention this coming June. Looking forward to hanging out with you and probably Jim and John and everyone else that shows up. And we have something on our Facebook page this morning about it. And good morning to Nick Tucker. When there are guests, I pause the pre-show so as not to delay them. Thank you. That being said, please like, share, and subscribe both to this program and Radio Retro Future. And Ryan Permisson is share. Thank you, Ryan. And good morning, Nevermorians. And follow that link tree for his stuff. Everyone's saying good morning. And Rick Bradley, good to see you. Check out Rick Bradley's brand new show, R&D Gaming, on the RAD, R-A-A-D publishing channel on YouTube. And if you want to be a guest on Ryan's show, check it out. Check out that address there. And everyone's saying hello. And also check out Arrow J. Knight of Jericho's Bane series on Ryan's show. And we're going to keep going. We'll keep posting the promotions here. But when we bring out our guests, keep posting your stuff. And we'll leave it here in the comments, but I won't be reading it aloud. And good morning, Brian Wensloff, Reels and Heels. Good to see you. So I've decided to make use of my YouTube channel I've had for years. Yes. I'd love for you guys to give it a like, a follow, so I can build it up and get the cool extra things like a unique name ID. Excellent. I'm going to try to get past episodes uploaded. It'll be a process, so please bear with him. Definitely, Brian. Good to see you here. And check that channel out. It's going to be good stuff on there. And, Ryan, we're grateful to have you, too. Happy New Comic Book Day. Yes, check out your local comic book shop today. I'm going to get some stuff. And Brian needs to revisit Love Beneath the Waves. It's on the menu. It's on the menu, Nick. You can vote for it. And hello, Eric Hawkins. Unloved by Kickstarter, but loved by everyone. Please check out Zombie for World of Oz and give that your support, okay? And special shout out to Cindy Kemp and her incredible newsletter. Sign up today at ckoepp.com. Glenn Fleming. Glenn, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're having a great morning. And check out Glenn's book on Jack Kirby on Indiegogo in demand. And Twitter appears to be unshadow banning people, and their tweets are showing up in feeds again. Interesting. And a special free gift with all orders. Glenn will put a great big smooch on the cover of your book. So, and you can have him cloned or at least photocopied. A G.I. Joe artist Eric Hawkins follows. Tweets started showing up, and people have not been seeing his tweets. So yes, I'm seeing more of my friends on there too. Yeah, I'm kind of liking the new boss on there so far. And John B. Pica, hey there, friends and foes. Happy Wednesday. Good to see you, John. Check out John B. Pica, the back of the Cereal Box Network, the Cereal Box .fun. Pardon me, John. Also, johnpica.com for all of his cool stuff. And he even picked up over 100 new followers as he is now showing up and recommended people to follow. I started following him too. And preparing a little film of me coloring Hatch with real brushes and colored ink to be posted soon. Excellent. Looks like Twitter is cleaning up the algorithms before the new boss shows up. And John Pica says, I want to encourage everyone to reframe their thinking. There's no such thing as a bad day or a bad month or bad year. There are challenges, there are obstacles, but ultimately we determine how to respond and react to those things. Could not love that more, John. Thank you. Ryan, says Glenn. And Ace Bonnie, Skunk today will get better. Kick Wednesday's butt, Skunk. Agreed, Ace Bonnie. Thank you for being here, brother. And Rick Riley says, SteamWorld permeates many video games all the way from Legend of Zelda to SteamWorld Dig. The latter game is steampunk with sentient robots in the Wild West. I've seen that before. And SteamWorld Heist, which is steampunk with sentient law in space. Back in the cerealbox.fun. Thank you, John. I knew one of us would get it right. It had to be you. And Kickstarter never loves my projects, but loves the money I bring them. Well, we love you, Eric. Should that be enough? And I'm going to be super busy, potentially, as I may be a commissioned DM soon. Excellent, as well as doing a lot of game design in the future. Nick, that is awesome. That's a great update there, my friend. Thank you. And also check out Nick tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central for Nerd Bacon on Raging 2 channel with Luke Stone. It's always going to be a lot of fun because Nick's on there. Everyone's saying hi to Nick. Now, I promised I'd bring in my friend at a quarter after, but I finished 2 minutes early. 2 minutes early. You want to come in? Yes? You want to come in? All right, I am going to bring in a real gentleman here. He is a terrific creative here. And if you don't love steampunk already, you will by the end of this episode. I want to bring out my friend Bonsart Bokel. How are you this morning, sir?
Well, it's already afternoon here, and it's King's Day in the Netherlands, so it's my day off. And yeah, I'm still recovering from the past fair that I went to this weekend. So yeah, still a bit groggy
about all that. Yeah. So excellent. Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you for being here, my friend. And I'm going to give you the stage. As I tell people, I'm going to give you the floor. And I want you to introduce yourself and tell everybody why you are so awesome.
So I am known as Bonsart. I'm a author and YouTuber from the Netherlands, and yeah, I've been working on steampunk for about 10 years this year. Yeah, last year I published my first book of the Association of Ishtar called The Wrench in the Machine, of which I'm really proud. And before that, I worked on many projects, including the Steampunk Beginner's Guide, which is a kind of like a documentary show on my YouTube channel, Radioretrofuture, that is about, I think, 15 episodes by now. And then there are some other smaller episodes. And yeah, I also did larger projects like steampunk music for Fallout 4, which is a fictional radio station, which was kind of like my introduction into making audio dramas. And yeah, here's to many more projects.
Indeed, that is fantastic. Well done, sir. And we're already getting comments. People are happy that you're here, or maybe happy that I'm not talking all the time. Anyway, next, Nicholas Stockard says, "Oh, hello, Bonsart." And if you ever need a role-playing game created around your world.
I've already spoken to Nicholas. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. I'm pimping for the guy. And check out the next episode of R&D Gaming with Rick Bradley and his son Donovan. And Mike Jimmy Larsha de Bruin says, "Oh, hey, it's a Bonsart." There we go. Mike Jimmy's real close to you, I think.
Yeah. We went to an event together this year, a matter of fact, and we're speaking on the Discord. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And John B. Pica says, "Bonsart, good to see you again." For those who don't know, Bonsart Radioretrofuture was for a short time syndicated on the Diesel Punk podcast that John produced.
Yeah, that kind of like died a natural death, unfortunately. Maybe we should meet up again, John, sometime.
I think that would be a great idea because John's got a lot of drive and he's got a super huge audience. So they're almost as cool as mine. And speaking of cool audience, Willow Scott, good morning to you, darling. And check out Rick Bradley's author page also. And Carl likes your classy background, chair and vest.
You haven't seen the rest of the apartment.
Oh, here we go. Excellent. And everyone's saying hello. And hello, Nevermore. It's Mike Jimmy Lordship. Glad to see you. Hey, Mike Jimmy, I'm reading your script right now and digging it. Everyone's saying hello to each other there. Now that we've caught up for the moment with that, how did your creative journey begin, and how did you make it, swerve into steampunk specifically? And maybe you want to explain to the audience more eloquently than I ever could. What is the difference between steampunk as a genre and other types of literary fictional cosplay genres?
Well, I'm glad you said genre, so that would really reduce the amount of time I need to explain it. So for me, the steampunk genre, I define as the original conceivers of the word defined it, which is cyberpunk in the past. So there's a lot of overlap with both science fiction and alternate history there. But what it defines it for me, like what separates it from ordinary alternate history in particular, is well, first of all, like the cyberpunk aspect, it really explores like the relationship between man and machine, so to speak. So there's a big emphasis on themes like progress, whereas alternate history has a lot more focus on like the political landscape. So that's what makes it special for me. And there's a lot of like overlap with other things, like especially the Association of Ishtar has a lot of overlap with cosmic horror as well. What I learned, especially throughout my interviews, I've done over a few hundred, now not a few hundred, but over 100. It's like this weird genre where a lot of authors end up that you love history, you love sci-fi, and it kind of like automatically leads you into the steampunk genre because that's what steampunks happen to like. And then there's also gaslight fantasy. Now, I'm not a fantasy buff at all. I don't like. I have not liked fantasy for a very long time now, and it's fantasy heavily inspired by like especially classic sci-fi films and horror films.
That's cool. Now, who are some of your creative influences? Who really gets your juices going in this?
Well, Fritz Lang is a creator I really enjoy. I forgot his name, but the creator of Berserk, who passed away last year. Who is actually a dark fantasy creator who probably made some of the some of the best dark fantasy ever. It was Japanese. Ranj Murata, also major influence, the concept designer of Lost Exile, which is basically the science fiction anime that really led me into steampunk. I did a retelling of the entire series for those interested on my other channel, the Retrofuture Research Foundation. Who else? Robert E. Howard and Lovecraft. Robert E. Howard more, I'd say. That's the primary ones, I think.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm prepping a couple of statements here for you. Let me get this posted here. And we implore you, please check out this gentleman's webpage at the at associationofishtar.com. And also check out the webpage at www.association, or I think I put the wrong one in.
Yeah,
That's
you already
my,
put it up.
I stink. Anyway, no, here we go. This is it. There we go. This is what I wanted to put up. Hold on a second here. There we go. And yeah, and also if you check out Bonsart's Facebook page, he has links to these as well. Don't rely on me because obviously I haven't had enough coffee yet, but definitely check out his YouTube channel and subscribe to it. It is a wealth of steampunk entertainment. Now, I have to ask you, like you showed me earlier, you prepped with your drink of choice this morning.
Yes.
Yes. Explain to me and our audience what King's Day is for us brutally uneducated Americans.
Yeah, so the Netherlands are a constitutional monarchy. So we do still have a king and queen. And well, the reason for the color orange, why you see the Dutch often dressed in orange during, for example, soccer matches, is because once upon a time during the time of the Reformation, so we're talking the 15th, 16th century, 16th, 17th century, the Dutch became one of the first republics in the world, and we used to be part of the Spanish Empire, and we had an independence war called the 80 Years' War. Right. It's basically what made the Netherlands the wealthy nation that it is today. And the leader of the rebellion was William of Orange, a German nobleman. And ever since then, orange has been associated with the kings, even though he was never a king, but he is what we call a stadhouder. The monarchy happened after Napoleon was defeated.
Interesting. That's cool to know. Now, tell us about The Wrench in the Machine.
So, The Wrench in the Machine, it's my first novel. I'm quite proud of it as well. And it has a wonderful cover by Staringer. I wanted to kind of like go for a classic like movie poster of the Hammer film, based on the Hammer film monsters. And The Wrench in the Machine is an introduction actually to the Association of Ishtar. The Association of Ishtar itself is originally a short story series that came out of me making the Steampunk Beginner's Guide, where I got a lot of questions like, how do you write steampunk? How do you create steampunk characters? So I basically started writing all these high concept stories. And finally, I approached a publisher with them, like, would you like to see an anthology of this? And said, well, yes, but the format might be alienating because they're written as files, not as typical short stories. So that's kind of led to the creation of The Wrench in the Machine, where an investigator, an inspector, police inspector, is involved in a murder investigation, and he discovers like there's this entire multiverse out there, and essentially he goes on this discovery of like this entire secret world, so to speak, or rather secret worlds. So it's really written as an introduction, and meanwhile he finds these files, because that's the wonderful thing. The stories of the Association of Ishtar are actual objects in the world, which kind of like explain what he's up against. And I don't want to go into spoilers, so.
Oh, understood. That sounds incredible, though. That is very, very cool. And I noticed that's a thick little book there. How many pages is that?
Well, like I said,
10 years.
There are multiple reasons for that. So one of them is that there are also like 5 or 6 short stories included there to begin with, and we also have a lot of. It's also quietly white space. That's a choice by my publisher, having crossed Steampunk Publishing, and what happened there was that I wrote it and I forgot, like noob writer here, that I was working on A4 and on A5. So
right.
I thought, oh, I have a nice number of pages, and then it was like, but the white spacing also doesn't helps in making it as big as it is.
Well, that's cool. That's cool, and I noticed a good size print there too. It's like I tell people I don't wear these just because they give my face character.
Yeah, I get a lot of like I have a mixed reaction. Some people are like, "Wow, that's white spacing." Others like, "Oh, I'm dyslexic, so I can actually read this."
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Because so many times we, as publishers, kind of ignore the fact that not everybody can read in the classic way. From left to right, at least in most of our nations, and that we need these cheaters and everything. So it's good that your publisher is keeping that in mind. And we've had some comments here. Mike Jimmy sounds like he's got a job here. If Carl Witzman ever writes a novel and movie about a young Sigmund Freud, he knows who to call. And Nick Tockert says, yes, Bonsart, I am actively reading through the files. Folks really should look into what you are doing. The worlds of Association of Ishtar are both delightful and at times terrifying. That's a pretty good recommendation there, I think. That is awesome. Eric Hawkins of the Zombie for World of Oz, and that's also very steampunk as well in its approach. Now, there's a guy who knows steampunk and didn't say steampunk was just gears inserted into everything. That's a good point. A lot of people just seem to think it's, like you said, just gears.
I'm actively trying to teach people like that's not what it is. At least not what the genre is about. I actually made an article about it. That I showed you the article about steampunk was a mistake. It was kind of like a continuation of another article. Which I discovered when I published this cover. Some people complained it was too Victorian. So that's an interesting. I thought that was an interesting comment, and then I realized the problem that a lot of creatives who are active in the steampunk. Because to be honest, the steampunk community is not a very grateful community to cater to. And one of the problems is not only do they not support their creators as well as they could do, another problem is and the other problem is that that the cosplay community of steampunk is starting to demand that the steampunk fiction and worlds reflect their costuming. Most steampunks don't put that much thought in their costume other than, wow, look at me being creative, which, fine. That's not a problem into itself. It's a problem when you start demanding that other creators who are actually trying to world build and actually try to build something that is, going deeper, then you start having problems. So that's a big shame. And the problem is also for people getting into steampunk. They want to belong, they want to fit in, they want to conform. They see all the people putting gears and everything, so that's what they do. And the worst thing, also another problem, is that is the type of steampunk stuff being sold on Amazon and places like that. So I was like, oh, where can I buy my when I started, the point was you go to a thrift shop and then you put things together that don't belong. And that is for me what steampunk costumes should look like. Instead, it's like, oh, I can just buy steampunk stuff on Amazon and everyone looks the same but they always have looked the same. There's too big of an emphasis on the brown. I mean, active measures have been taken to actually discourage people from wearing brown. There are other colors in the rainbow.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a constant struggle to convince people, and a lot of creatives get just burned out. Like, well, if I have to conform to what these people want, who only know, like you said, they want more of the same,
Mhm.
but different.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's a yeah, a major concern, and it's influencing writers because they do not dare to stray away from that aesthetic.
And that's a shame, because we have something like that here in the States, like within the writing the reader community, I should say, and also the cosplay, in that some people just don't realize that there's room for everyone. That it's not a matter of making the genre fit your narrow conception of it. It's a matter of finding which shade of the rainbow that is the genre that you want, that appeals to you. Otherwise, cosplay in this country would be all anime and manga characters, whereas it's a
Yeah, well,
lot wider than that. It's comic books, movies, etc., etc. So
that's an issue that I noticed. Like in the Netherlands, and why like I had American steampunks coming over here, and they're like looking at the Dutch steampunk, like, oh my god, why don't we have this in the United States? Um, And one of the reasons is, like, in America, it came forth from from the convention sphere, and we didn't have conventions, not those big ones that you have in the United States. We had fairs, which were
yeah.
more fantasy oriented, and there were no. And when I started originally in the reenactment, like historical reenactment, 14th century, and there was Elfia, which I went to last weekend.
Mhm.
Was this place, like, there were no Lord of the Rings movies at the time. Fantasy was kind of like a Wild West. There was a guy, who was Gandalf,
Mhm.
but it was not the movie Gandalf. And the problem is now all the hobbits and all the guys look like the movie variants.
Yeah.
And that's why, when I started with the Steampunk Beginner's Guide series, I emphasized, like, steampunk isn't cosplay. It's original content, so to speak, original costuming. There is no word for that,
Mhm.
because when I talk about cosplay, I don't talk about that type of costume. I'm talking about a fandom. It's fans making those costumes to look like the characters that they care about. Steampunk wasn't like that. They were all original characters. I mean, there was not much thought put into them, but at least it was an attempt to make something. And now it's becoming more and more like a copy of itself.
Mm.
Steampunk cosplayers copying other steampunk cosplayers.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's and now they demand that artists basically make more of that same stuff. And and I mean, this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about. This is a bookend prototype.
I love that.
So for those who are interested, you can order them from me through email only at the moment. But
Mhm.
this is Associate 221. Atom Diesel Punks love this. But yeah,
Cindy
this
Kemp,
is
are you watching?
yeah, this is yeah. I actually had, like, self-identifying diesel punks, like, buy the book because I showed the photo on which this bust is based. We also have a 30 millimeter model of this in the pose of the photo.
Beautiful.
And this one, this is the Carl Girl,
Mhm.
the villain of the book and the comic. This is the first character I ever created for the series. And that short story is also responsible for the entire world building of what the association would become. So the whole series as a whole also is my whole embodies my entire view on world building
Mhm.
into itself as well.
Right. Well, now that you brought up world building, which is something a lot of us do, even if it's, we're just like, if we do historical, we do future, we do current events, we still mold the world that we want our characters to play in. Did your vision of, your steampunk universe, did it just kind of like one day you woke up and there it was, or was it a reaction to what you were already seeing in other works, or was it you start out with just one little corner of it and then you started thinking about the permutations? How did you come up with this, your universe, basically?
Okay, so first I want to make a distinction that I always make is there's a difference between building a world and world building.
Okay.
For those who want more explanation of that, check out my blog where I talk about this. And what I did with the call girl, it was originally inspired by number stations. Are you familiar with those?
I think I might be, but let's please explain.
Okay, so basically the idea behind the number stations, they are an actual thing. And my friend used to be in ham radio transmitting.
Oh.
And these number stations, they're just sent into the ether, but it's just numbers being sent out by various secret agencies. One particular notorious one is the Lincoln Poacher, which started with this dreadful tune based on a song called the Lincoln Poacher song.
Mhm.
There were like people who, as a hobby, like noted all the numbers there. That was like years before I ever started with steampunk, but that always stayed with me. The time that we all had like analog radios in our cars. And you'd be in the car at night, would be raining, and then you were looking for something to listen to, and you heard all these sounds coming in through the ether.
Yeah.
And there's something very creepy about white noise, and especially those number stations where you have this mechanical voice reciting all these numbers at you, and that inspired the call girl who. However, I had to make that fit, and so the numbers actually had to mean something. Because basically the concept here is like, what if those numbers refer to you? And that's kind of like when it led into that all the associates of Ishtar, they have numbers instead of like code names or something. So we've got associate 8, associate 122, etc., etc.
Nice.
And so the call girl is reciting the numbers of the associates that she is hunting. I haven't painted on her here, but originally she has like all these tattoos of numbers which have a notch through them, like a notch through a gun.
Right.
So this is an assassin who has it out for the associates of Ishtar in particularly, and they don't know why.
Right.
And she just keeps popping up and she starts like every attack with reciting the numbers of the associates she's hunting over the radio. And in the Wrench in the Machine, she's the main villain. I developed the concept further. So things that are not included in the short story are elaborated upon here, which she does not speak, for example, by herself. She uses nearby radio systems to speak, using basically what a technique used by ghost hunters, as a matter of fact, who they have this thing where they have these devices that cycle through radio stations. And the belief is that ghosts will then, pick up the words they need to speak.
Right.
And that's how she's communicating.
Oh, wow.
So that's basically how I world build. Like, I have a concept, and then it's like, okay, how are they gonna deal with this? How are they going to? So the whole thing stems from the writing process itself. Like, I do not plot. Apparently there's a name for this, Panzer. I never heard of this name.
Yeah, whereas you're writing by the seat of your pants. You're making it up as you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard of that. Somebody said that to me, like, "Oh, are you a Panzer?" And I like, is that a slur? What?
Well, you got a character called Call Girl, and given my audience, what the first thought was.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I make up stuff as I go along.
That's cool.
And like everything, my whole idea of what lore is what happens in the stories. Not what I scribble on a notepad somewhere as a type of headcanon.
Right. Now, we discussed when we were talking on your show about how people seem to think that steampunk is almost exclusively Victorian,
Mm.
in era. But what in your book and your other works about when in our hit, like about what year would this all take place? Is this contemporary or?
Well, the Association of Ishtar takes place about the currently in the 1870s. Like I have plans for what happens later and where I want to go. I chose the 1870s because of that. You've got the Franco-German War, which is probably one of the most important wars for our contemporary age. It's often ignored in the history books. Everyone starts at World War One, but if you want to know the cause of World War One, you have to go to the French-German War, which united Germany. And if the Germans had lost that war, our history would have looked completely different. So I started with the idea that the Germans actually lost the war. Germany is not united in this alternate timeline. And I was also at the time really interested in Napoleon. So Napoleon also plays a very important role here. Was also a great driver of change at the time. So in this case, because a lot of people don't realize this, but really Napoleon was the Hitler of his age. He was the boogeyman, which is, by the way, where the name comes from.
Really?
Bonaparte, boogeyman.
Oh,
and like they believe that the English believe that kind of like how we talk about Nazis these days.
right.
They were talking about Napoleon, like he's building submarines and air fleets to conquer. Like literally, there are drawings of this that people were actually afraid that Napoleon was using air balloons and submarines and metal ironclads to conquer England. That's a very powerful. He was a very powerful element for pop culture at the time.
Sure.
And in this timeline, that kind of became a reality because what the Association of Ishtar does is on their world there are all these rifts to alternate realities, so alternate timelines. Now that was done intentionally because the idea originally was that people can insert their ideas into the universe and can build their own worlds, because that's what steampunks often talked about. I saw somebody mention there's a writing contest. Yes, the deadline is May 1st. However, if there are like more people like, oh, we didn't notice and want to participate, maybe we can postpone it another week, because I wanted to announce the winner on my birthday, the 2nd of June. So the idea is people can really put in their own ideas, their own characters, their own worlds, and other people can then take those ideas and have them like duke it out, like Godzilla versus, I don't know, Predator or something. So it really is supposed to be like this speculative universe. And for the world of the Association of Ishtar itself is that all these ideas are pouring in, and that's basically what Napoleon did. How he did that or how he discovered this is not yet unknown, but now more and more rifts keep opening up. And the association is getting more and more busy trying to figure out how to contain all these anomalies.
Nice. I love this. Well, we've got a few questions already, and Brian Wensloff of Reels and Heels would like to know, why does steampunk and Western seem to work so well together?
Because steampunk's appropriated Weird West, basically. So that's one thing. But I mean, steampunk really is a continuation of the pulps. I have a love-hate relationship for this reason with steampunk, because really it's kind of like it's not really new. Just its approach of cyberpunk in the past. That's basically all that's new about it. But
Yeah.
it really is a continuation of the Weird West genre, but more specifically geared toward. It's more high concept than Weird West is, I guess.
Yeah.
There's higher. It's more focused on themes like progress and conflict, and Weird West is really like, oh, what if we put cowboys and aliens together? But yeah, no, there's there is Bodacious Greed by a friend of mine, which is a steampunk western. But Weird West would probably be more appropriate for it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also I would think, a lot of steampunk and, westerns, they're almost at the same tech level, except you have more people doing things with steam in steampunk, obviously. And a lot of that I've seen is we are taking like our tech level, our 2022 level, and then trying to convert it into the past and seeing how we can power it with an alternative fuel source.
Well, when you have Deadwood, for example, progress is also a very important theme in that series. Like, where one of the characters talks about voices from invisible sources when they're putting down a telegram line or telephone line. And of course there is Red Dead Redemption, which also delves into that topic where you've got like this cowboy, but meanwhile, like everything is more focused around urban society, and they become this weird thing. But one other theme is the power of entrepreneurship, like all these crazy inventors and their entrepreneurial spirit, and that's also something that's really associated with Wild West, because I mean, when we talk about the American Wild West, we really think about these cowboys and gunslingers, but we're talking about like this tiny fraction of the population,
right?
And there is this book. I've not read it myself, but it's called The Not So Wild West.
Yes.
Basically about how law-abiding those settlements were.
Yeah.
Of course, this does not fit like what we want the Wild West to be for various reasons.
Sure.
And
nobody did their research.
yeah, and so there's all these issues. There's both Weird West and steampunk are very focused on how do you say are very focused on pop culture. A lot of people talk about the Industrial Revolution and critique on the West. But if you ask like a question about history on the average steampunk, they barely know anything. They don't even know who Otto von Bismarck is. I tested this. It's only the most important politician of the day, if not contemporary history.
Right.
Maybe they'll know the battleship who has his name, the Bismarck, because Sabaton made a song about it.
Yeah. Sink the Bismarck.
Yeah. And there's the song, exactly. So that's why they know that name. It's not because they care about history.
Right. Well, for decades here in America, we've every so often somebody takes a poll and somebody thinks that, like, back in the 60s when I was growing up, they thought that Vietnam was one of the states. Here in the United States, just this, just this incredible lack of education. So, and Carl Witzman says, I need to check the website. Yes, you do. That is associationofishtar.com. Definitely check that out. You will find hours.
Short stories now.
Yeah,
and
there's
people can submit stories anytime, by the way, if they're inspired.
There you go. And Michaela Jade's going, ooh, there is a writing challenge on the webpage. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
And Mike Jimmy Lorson de Bruin loves A Thick Spine, apparently. And Sarah's probably going to make me get a copy of the book just so I can lick it on the air. And Rick Bradley, if you haven't seen that, you haven't missed a thing, me licking spines. Anyway, Rick Bradley asked, do you prefer just straight steampunk stories, or do you like to mix it up like steampunk/horror, steampunk/action-adventure?
I guess, when you talk about steampunk genre, like I said, it's cyberpunk in the past. So yeah, you often have to like mix it up to make it more interesting and engaging. Like many people say that my book is steampunk cosmic horror. Even though I intended to, even after reading the first chapter, they say that even though I intended the first chapter to be more kind of like my idea originally for the Revenge of the Machine was, and apparently I failed at this, was that it started out like as this midsummer murder-esque thing. You have the British police inspector being British, and
yes,
a murder in a cottage type of deal, and then but no, people were like from the moment on they say, well, it really has this strong cosmic horror vibe, even though I did not intend that.
Well, given your influences were Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft, I would see that as a natural for that creeping into your work, really, because that's what they both wrote. So,
yeah, that is true.
Yeah, and I could, and steampunk, I think could lend itself to even romance, like we discussed on your show.
Everything, because when it really comes down to steampunk, it really is about it's really a theme more than anything. I mean, there are people say, "Oh, steampunk is just a setting." Well, yeah, if all you know about steampunk is like the conventions, oh yeah, I get that, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mike Jimmy Lorson Bruin says, I have yet to continue reading it, but reading time has been minimal. You've been a busy young man. We understand. Nick Tockert says, if you enjoy the SCP Foundation, you will enjoy the Association of Ishtar. And Mike Jimmy likes the line spacing. It makes for easy reading. And a lot of folks think steampunk is clockwork punk, and neither are just gears on a hat. It's just like people think horror is nothing but gore. There's no room for a Mary Shelley, sort of thing. So, and that's, or the, science fiction or what. Let's see. And Mike Jimmy Lorsha has a good quote here. I shall not adhere to your demands for your ideas to reflect my world, but do please get lost inside of it. Excellent. And John B. Pica says, League of Impossibles was the #1 steampunk new release on Amazon for 2 weeks, and the cons could have cared less. Well, the thing is, I don't know that I know in this country we don't have like a lot of steampunk conventions as I would guess. Something like we have comic book conventions, we have horror conventions, we have romance writing conventions, etc. But there's very few conventions of that focus around steampunk. It's almost like an afterthought with a lot of them. But you mentioned like with you, I saw the pictures on your website, and they resemble more what we call Ren Fair here. Which is
right.
Yeah, you know what that is.
Yeah. Well, Ren Fair is a very American term, so to speak. We developed our own tradition, I guess, and that's really like the fantasy fairs, as we called them. Elvia was probably one of the biggest one for a long time. Now it's more Castle Fest, which is also like people come from all around the world to visit Castle Fest. Elvia also turned more into a convention now, which is a shame. So what made Elvia so special is kind of gone, because it really used to be for the fans, by the fans. And yeah, I mean there's this overreach, that's very prevalent in commercial culture at large, where it's like, well, if you're gonna make a video game, not only does it have to cost us millions, but it also has to like make double than the first part. They lost sense of scale. A game cannot be like make its money back. No, it must be huge. And the same goes for Elvia. I think they were like, we need to grow and grow and grow, and I think that's, if you did well with 200 people last year, why can't you do well with 200 people this year? Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it. And John B. Pica continues, the community is far from being such. And I think it's true of a lot of genres, as well as, it's just not just steampunk. Willow Schuyler says, I am very much a steampunk fan myself, been working with a friend for many years to create fun steampunk events in my city. It's slow going to make it a successful event every year. Well, there's one that's about 5 hours from a drive from me, but in Hannibal, Missouri, there is a steampunk festival there that is growing and growing every year, I understand, in the town where Mark Twain was from. You're familiar with Mark Twain, I guess.
I'm familiar with Mark Twain, more with the character than with his work, to be honest.
Oh yeah. But yeah, his hometown is home to a steampunk convention every year. Eric Hawkins says the color thing is so true. People think my steampunk comic is too colorful, but it is in Oz, so it needs to be colorful. Well, it's not like even. Let's talk about American Civil War era. Old West era, Victorian era, Elizabethan. It's not like they, it started being the 20th century and suddenly color came in. Color has always been with us, but a lot of it would, correct me if I'm wrong.
We communicate with colors.
Exactly. There's a whole, that's why we talk about color theory, in sales and everything. But a lot of color has been, like kind of what separates the wealthy from the not so wealthy in a lot of cases. Because, like purple for a while was the royal color, for instance. And, so
pink was a very cheap color because it was basically red, but then diluted. So the first batch would be red, would be for the higher classes, and pink would be common for the lower classes. Yeah.
Right.
Also, there's an interesting story behind why the color brown has been chosen.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah, it's because of first of all, there's the common association with the working class, machinery and that kind of thing. So, well, that makes sense to everyone, but also sepia photography.
Right, I hadn't thought of that. Plus, I was thinking also leather. A lot of it tends to be brown in color as well, and leather does figure into a lot of steampunk couture. So. There's a word I learned from television. And Willow Schuyler says, Eric, you need to look up Nerf Punk. Steampunkers have created costumes to go along with the bright colors of their Nerf guns. I love it. I love that.
Yeah, basically, like instead of painting our Nerf guns, we're gonna dress in the colors of Nerf.
There we go. That'd be fun. I can see Steam. No. We don't want Steam cosplay with weaponry. Anyway, Nick Tucker, do you include Bartitsu in the way you write hand-to-hand combat?
No, I'm not interested in Baritsu, to be honest.
Well, there you go, Nick. There's your category now. Get busy. And Carl Westman, number stations, heard many of them on my shortwave. Carl Westman is a shortwave enthusiast. And I remember hearing about them, but I was thinking of something else, actually. I'm glad we had that conversation. Brian Wesloff says, I love seeing cosplayers dressed as known horror characters, such as Jason, Freddy, Ghostface, but as steampunk versions at conventions. How many times have we gone to like a big convention and there's inevitably somebody who's done like a steampunk superhero?
That's what I say. They care about pop culture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And undefined reasons for murder? Sign me up, says Mike and Jimmy Larson to Bruin. Oh, now we know where you're coming from, Mike, Jimmy, and the authorities will be there soon. Anyway, Brian Weslow says, I've seen all kinds of steampunk at conventions from Marvel, DC, Disney, and everything in between. It is a cool concept. It really is. And good morning to Ninja Genko. Glad to see you here. Willow Schuyler says, you'll be happy to hear that a friend of mine has been trying to create a steampunk streaming network.
I am probably on that network called Subgenres. Is that the one she's talking about?
Yeah, please let us know, Willow. It's connecting creative steampunkers from all over the world.
She's considering, if we're talking about subgenres, she's considering making a series about the Association of Ishtar.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
So,
sounds like you're making an impact. That's very good. I'm proud of you.
Oh, yeah.
Good. And speculative history is so much fun. Like myself, I think the first speculative thing I ever read was Norman Spinrad wrote a book called The Iron Dream. And the idea was that in 1933, Hitler, or rather before 1933, Hitler started writing a book about his struggle. However, he abandoned it and put his philosophy into a science fiction novel, got out of politics, and became a world-renowned science fiction writer.
Oh.
And it was what happened because we never had a Nazi Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating book, and that's what got me going. That's why I've always loved things like What If from Marvel. And yes, this is interesting to Ninja Genko. We're glad you're here. Brian Wesloff says, growing up in the 80s, there was a cartoon called Brave Star, which I guess could be considered steampunk.
Yeah, I would call it Weird West, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, ish. And from That's a Small Press Publisher, Jody McPhee asks, question, why don't people see aspects of steampunk as super science in terms of mechanical engineering and biology? Steampunk gave us things like cyborgs before the first circuit board was built.
Okay, well, let me first of all, steampunk is a term created in the 1980s, so everything, if you say that anything before that is steampunk, that's historical revisionism, as far as I'm concerned. No. This is
I'm laughing in sympathy. I see your point. I agree.
Yeah,
with
no,
you,
but
actually.
this is important. This is the problem of why steampunk is on such a decline, as far as I'm concerned, because people do not separate steampunk from what came before, and the problem is with that steampunks are heavily inspired by the old science fiction. And it's in a way they play with those science fiction terms, and that's a major source of inspiration, and that is lost because when you say, well, that is, when you say something is steampunk, the discussion has ended. There's no more topic. There's no more discussion. That's why I said steampunk was a mistake. Because, when you are discussing your sources of inspiration, like I'm inspired by Robert E. Howard, Lovecraft, Ranj Murata, that type of, we're actually talking about something and we are puzzling stuff together. But if I would say, well, Solomon Kane is steampunk, yeah, well, that's where the logic is going.
I see that, but that's quite a stretch for Solomon Kane.
I mean, Solomon Kane is such an influential character that is reflected in steampunk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, by the logic on display, well, yeah, then Solomon Kane is steampunk. Because here's the problem with it, and what I'm trying to get it through to people, that for a lot of people, steampunk is what steampunk's like. In other words, steampunk has become this term of projection. And with it, you kill every discussion that can be had. Right? That's why there's so little talk on steampunk, because it kills using that word is like instantly conversation dead, because everybody knows instinctively. Oh well, if somebody says that Solomon Kane is steampunk, I cannot go against that person because that will be a personal offense.
Right. Yeah. No, I can see that, and I also appreciate your point about kind of pigeonholing things before the term came up. Because a lot of people in this country call a series called Wild Wild West. They made that movie with Will Smith.
Weird West, yeah,
it's a Weird West. It really is. Or that Frankenstein is not just horror but science fiction.
It's probably, well, I don't know if it's the first science fiction, but it's for many close. It's considered to be like the source of science fiction. The speculative of high concept, like the idea that you have a what if question: what if man created life?
Right.
And yeah, it's the importance of that work is immense.
Yeah, that's true. Good points. Good morning to you, Grant Lankard. And the good news is his boss told him it was too cold to work today, so I get to watch Nevermind the Furthermore. Hope you're enjoying the show, Grant. Glad to have you here. Nick Tockert says, I see steampunk as a genre enhancer. It adds a unique flavor to your attached genre, very much like an overlapping pulp as a concept.
I have a comment on that, and this is why I said to Brian, I'm happy you defined steampunk as the genre, because there's a separation between steampunk as a genre, steampunk as an aesthetic, and steampunk as a community. These are three separate things.
Agreed.
And for fantasy, they use a lot of the steampunk aesthetic, but it has nothing to do with the genre of steampunk, with some exceptions like Arcane. What's the game called? Arcanum of Magic and Steamwork.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it's the same way with pulp for me, in that pulp also describes the style of writing. You know, less flowery, more to the point than
Yeah.
say, like the Elizabethan type of writing, or even before that. When when a lot of these guys like Dickens were paid by the word. So, and Carl, I hope Dan Hollifield catches this later too. We'll have to make sure he does see this. Like Jimmy Lorch de Bruin says, aha! He mentioned Castlefest, which is my shameless promo plug that he'll be at the writers market there. Excellent. Everybody go out and
I
see
still
it.
need to look into doing the same myself, if that's still possible at this point.
That sounds good. And yes, mail out those Beowulf issues. I'm waiting for mine. And Mike, Jimmy continues, Carl Wisman, totally. Dan and I had a nice talk last week that lasted 4 hours straight, just talking about world building and everything life related. That's why I love hanging out with writers. And Dan almost wrote a symphony about airship battles in the genre. I downloaded it from Bandcamp. Willow Schuyler says subgenres is the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
My Steampunk Beginner's Guide is on there as well, by the way.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
I will.
They are in dire need of subscribers.
Well, let's subgenres.
Streaming service.
Might get one more before the day is over. Anyway, that's why I take notes. And Brian Wetzlaw says, my good friend Matt Knowles is huge into steampunk and even created a comic book. It's very good. Yes, it is.
I spoke with Matt. I did a podcast with him.
There he is. Matt, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Good morning. Gracias. Thank you, good sir. Yes, definitely check out Matt's comic book. It is very, very cool. And further question from the desk of a small press publisher: why isn't steampunk defined in such a way where it can be discussed? If it's revisionist history, then say it is that. If it is something personal, then say that. Why can't it be defined? That's a great question.
It can be defined. They just refuse to, because it's such a personal thing, because it's projection, as I explained before. And and there have been people in the past, before my time, that took it far too seriously and, started like gatekeeping and stuff. And of course, so there were actual fights over this of what steampunk should be. And now then people became afraid to even talk about defining steampunk. I'm, as far as I'm aware, the only one who actually, uses a definition. As far it has been tested for over at least 8 years now on what it is. So, and I've yet to be proven wrong.
There we go. Now, we talked about the wrench and machine in your creative source. Now, in your photos, did I see a picture of a coloring book?
Yes, I've got a prototype right here. Yes, I'm very proud of it. It is created by over 6 artists, because I also want to continue making comics as well. And I've got some renowned artists from various communities. It contains both characters from the book as from the short stories. And it is from veterans, from some people who are newer. And
that's
I'm
lovely.
really proud of what it has become.
You should be. That's gorgeous. Now you also mentioned the comic book. I wanted to touch on that too. Oh gosh,
yes.
That's awesome.
I've got the comic book here. It's me basically learning how to write comics. So it's a very short comic. Two, I guess. There's one page comic in there, which kind of explains various. There's also some color pages in there. But yeah, this is a one-page comic explaining what the Association of Ishtar is and what they look like when they're going into the field. Then, of course, it's a comic version of the Call Girl, the first story I ever made for the series. So, of course, it has a file page in there, and then it basically goes into the story proper itself, which is one of the scenes from the short story. And the one also I'm very proud of is it also contains a additional short story called Lights in the Dark, which is a kind of like a pilot to my comic called the Coffin Girls. I'm considering I'm working on the second book right now. I hope to finish the first draft in the next couple of weeks before my birthday. And yeah, the Coffin Girls are like a kind of like a penal legion in the world that are designed to fight the monsters coming in through the gates. So there are French penal legion. So it also explores like kind of like France in the post-Napoleon era of this world. And yeah, also like new fighting vehicles, which are called chassis de bataille or battle frames. And the Coffin Girls are the first pilots of that. While they're supporting like other penal legionnaires that are, you know, fighting monsters with basically improvised weapons. So that's the idea about that, and I'm really eager to get started on that short story series.
Oh, I bet. Now, now you said that the coloring book is still a prototype, so it's not available yet, correct?
No, the idea is that because I'm completely new to the whole Kickstarter thing.
Yes.
So I'm considering doing a Kickstarter. I hope to launch it on my birthday. That's why the announcement of the winners of the writing challenge is on June 2nd. And it will also be my 40th birthday, which is also kind of like a milestone. And it's also the 10th year that I'm working on my steampunk project. So it's a couple of things coming together this year.
Excellent.
And yeah, so I really need to get working on that.
Yeah. And here I am holding you up. Well, also now your comic book, if anyone was interested in that, would that be part of your Kickstarter campaign, or is that available right now?
That one is available right now. It will probably be part of the Kickstarter campaign, in the sense that you can buy the comic book and the Wrench in the Machine together with the coloring book. The next book, Bound for the Sticks, will probably be in the editing phase, so that's too early. But maybe I'll make that a separate Kickstarter as well. I'm not sure if people are interested in the book, and I'm hesitant if I should include that because, you know, logistics and stuff.
There is that, but that might be a good stretch goal, though.
Yeah, it could be. So
yeah. I think it's got a chance here. I'd be very interested in, when you get that going. I'd be very interested in helping you get the word out. Okay.
Okay.
And Will Schuyler says, shout out to Natasha Clausen for creating subgenres at subgenres.net. I'm going to be checking that out later today, I promise. And also follow the Society for the Ethical Treatment of Kraken. And we aren't talking about the spiced rum either. There's the Facebook. Please check it out. Brian Wesloff says, can I just say that your English is very good? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I do try. No, wait, you meant, sorry. Can I just say your English is very good, especially using more high concept words? I'm definitely going to be following all your work. Excellent. And from Joe D. McPhee, based on what was said, I can see why this would turn people off from participating. I know I would be, due to a lack of defined standards. And I think just the idea of, you know, gatekeeping, and it happens in everything. Everybody thinks everything has to fit their narrow worldview. And I would agree. If I listened to the gatekeepers, I'd have never started writing either. And in a way, steampunk is left to personal imagination by how it is presented. Would you agree with that?
Well, for me, when it comes to the genre, at least, I make a strong distinction between the sci-fi aspect of steampunk and the fantasy aspect of steampunk, because they're written in two completely different ways. I see genres as tool sets, and they have very different tools that need to be pulled open in order to thing. And I don't care for fantasy for that reason. I just don't like the tools they are using. So it's well, yeah, there is a personal preference. However, rather. If you prefer fantasy, yeah, go do Gaslamp, and if you like sci-fi, you're more likely to do steampunk.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's very important to keep those two genres separate so you can have proper conversations, because the source of their inspiration is going to be very, very different, and the way they're written is very, very different. So yeah, and like I said, there are always exceptions. I mean, that's what the word is for. But it really is also, when using the tools of steampunk and fantasy is very different than writing gaslight fantasy.
Very true, very true. And like I said, each genre, if you will, has its own conventions that you almost have to
tropes,
certain benchmarks you have to hit in order to make it identifiable as that. So you have to.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the aesthetics, it's very different. That's a very different discussion. That's why I make the separation between the various. I mean, and if you want to make a steampunk just a steampunk costume for whatever reason, go ahead. It does not affect me. But if you're saying, well, my fantasy steampunk costume should be in your story, well, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, send him some money and bribe him into putting it in his work if you want it so badly. That would work with me. Operators are standing by.
Yeah, I'll start with reading my books.
There we go. Get that book first so you know what's going on. And Brian Rodman, who, by the way, still has his Kickstarter out for the Nebulizer #2. He is, I think, 2/3 of the way to his goal. Please help him attain it. That's a beautiful, beautiful book. And speaking of beautiful, Brian, who is an artist himself, says, my goodness, this artwork is just fantastic. Well done. I got
very proud on the artist that I managed to find.
You should be. You definitely should be. Brian Wetzoff, this is an awesome interview. Great job, Brian. Well, thank you. I credit this guy over to my left as we would if we were sitting in the Hollywood squares. And from the desk of Small Press Publisher, question: what would be the first? And this is a great question to close on, really. What would be the first thing you would tell a person who is not into steampunk that could get them into the fold of the community? That's an excellent question.
Into the fold of the community. Well, I'm kind of a pariah in the community. So,
what about a fellow rebel like you? Let's put it that way. How's that?
Yeah. Well, I would start with explaining that for me, steampunk is a homonym where you have the genre, the aesthetic, and the thing. And I got a lot of feedback that's very useful for people that there is a distinction to be made there.
Agreed.
And to get them into the community. I mean, if you're a fan of history and sci-fi, I mean, steampunk is for you. If you're looking for people who who want to do something different, the steampunk community might be for you. If you're looking into a community that's very social, that has like its own rituals and culture and things like that. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the steampunk community is very unique in our landscape because I mean, it's something that is not supposed to exist in the convention sphere, where you have, like, for example, Star Wars. Why is everyone obsessed with Star Wars? Well, yeah, there are, of course, the original movies, of course. But then there is like the buckets and buckets of money sponsored by Disney and related corporations into those conventions. It's marketing, basically. Like, they're saying, you have to like this. And the steampunk community is not like that. It's completely self-made. So really, it's a shame that the steampunk community is not supporting its creators as well as they could. Because, then they would be able to make whatever they wanted. I mean, they often complain, well, there's not a lot of very good steampunk. Well, you're not paying for it. You're not supporting them. What do you expect is going to happen?
Right.
And that's the problem. There needs to be some people. Unfortunately, all these people are other creators, so they have the same issue as I have. but yeah, there should be like the social aspect of steampunk is extremely important. However, the international community is a bit of a myth, where it's a lot of local communities. And they are, I mean, those are great communities to be part of.
Right.
But yeah, as a creator, um, yeah, you really have to look for a more, you have to go into the indie community, is my experience.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, and I think it's also a very good selling point in that, it's pretty divergent within this community. There are various communities within the community,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's not corporate, and we don't have to worry about like Star Wars did when when Lucas sold to Disney, that they had the paperback series that were in continuity, and then they wind up pissing off a lot of their readers by saying, "Oh yeah, all that stuff that we sold you, well, about 2/3 of it doesn't count anymore." It's like,
Mhm.
find your
Yeah.
tribe, people. They keep saying, find your tribe, and support it.
Yeah, yeah. The steampunk is a tribe of people. I mean, one of the wonderful things is that once these communities do connect, all these loose communities, I mean, they're all like-minded people, you
Yeah.
know. So that's wonderful
Is
about it, and there is most definitely a desire to have an actual international community. There absolutely is. But the community is not supportive enough of it. It's very much, the cosplayer mentality. We dress up pretty, we go to see our usual group of people, and and then, oh well, a lot of the books that I sold up to this point are people who know me personally. And when I'm selling on conventions, apparently I'm very good at selling books. So I sold out my novel on Elfia, so
good.
um, I'm very adept at that.
That's a
But
good thing.
when it comes to Steam, I don't know if any people of the steampunk community bought my book who didn't personally know me.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that happens, and that's the nice thing about the one-to-one on sale, that people will buy it because not only because they appreciate what you do and how you do it, but they have a personal connection to you,
Oh
which
yeah.
can carry on, and they can become a cheerleader for you, which is
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cringe to see like authors putting their name on banners, with a photo like, "Oh, I'm this author that you never heard of." And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. But then when I'm actually selling the books, it's like, "Oh, you're the author of the book?" Like they think I'm just some salesperson.
yeah.
So
Well,
it's like, okay, okay, so that is how it works. All right, right.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, speaking as one of those guys that do that, it's like, it is kind of amusing to count how many people at a show will go, they see me wearing the fez and the glasses, and are you that guy? No, I'm cosplaying Brian. Okay, I'm doing a terrible job of it, but don't judge me. So,
Yeah, yeah. But actually, have all the makeup so I actually look like him, and
yeah, I had surgery. Damn it, I'm getting the plastic surgery, so I look more like
that
Brian.
dedicated.
Yeah, right. There's a level to my craftsmanship here. So anyway, in our closing minutes here, we have mentioned in passing the writing contest. Please tell us about the writing contest. Take notes, Nevermorians. This could be
Okay,
for
so for
you.
those who already visited the website, there is there up there in the top is a button that says writing contest. It's a challenge called the esteemed members of the chair. The chair is kind of like the daily what's the English word? The general management, so to speak, of the association.
Mhm.
And
The
so the
chairman.
idea is that you start a letter to the chair, like every story is introduced that way, with a letter, the current state of affairs, that kind of like hints on what's going on in the rest of the
Mhm.
story. So all the stories have this particular structure, like a file. It's a um so yeah, the contest is the esteemed members of the chair. Every story has to start with that sentence, maximum 2,000 words, so it can be shorter. And yeah, officially at the moment, the deadline is May 1st. However, if there are people in this chat who are like, "Oh, I want to participate," we can like postpone it for 2 weeks, I suppose. I think that's manageable.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, the other rules are on there. Of course, it does require you to read some of the short stories, so you know what is expected of you. But yeah, like I said, if you don't make the deadlines, be free to submit your story anytime. You know, when we have more writers participating in the series, you know what we can do. Like I said, there is a great interest. Like I said, I've been talking to Nick. And yeah, I want it to be a collaborative universe, and we'll see where this adventure ends. I'm not done writing for it, so yeah.
Good.
And yeah, I think yeah, all the rules are on there. If there are questions, we have a Discord that you can join. There are a lot of some of the writers in this chat are already on there, and yeah.
Most excellent. Most excellent. Well, speaking of channels, definitely want to check out the YouTube channel, the Retrofuture Research Foundation. Hours and hours of great conversation, all kinds of great imagination. Definitely check that out. Give it a thumbs up on the videos, and also please subscribe. Let's get this man's numbers up. And then also we have Rising Tide Publications endorses Bonsart's webpage at associationofishtar.com. Again, beautifully designed, and you will get lost in there. It is a grand and glorious place to be. If you are at all in steampunk or just want to check out what it's about, this is the place for you. And so in closing here, I'm going to give you the floor once again. Please, I've given a couple places, but if you want to say, like, if I forgot to ask you anything or whatever, this is your chance to make your final plea to the audience to follow you slavishly. So, Bonsart, have at it.
Yes. So go check out my YouTube channel, the Radioretrofuture, where I have the Steampunk Beginner's Guide and many interviews, and I've got a lot of stuff going on there. I'm always looking for collaborations to make more narrative videos, like I already said, either for on fiction and pulp and all that stuff. If you are interested in supporting me, we have a Patreon. We also have a subscribe star, so you can choose where to support me. And yeah, I also have well, my comic and S36. You can order signed copies from me, of course. The comic book is coloring up. If you are interested in miniatures for your games, we have a 30mm version of this guy in a wonderful pose. And yeah, soon I also should have heard there were some issues with her model because this lady is a little bit more intricate. So, but yeah, the bookends should also be available. They look like this, by the way, when you get them. So you can paint them all to your heart's delight. If you want me to paint them, yeah, we're gonna have to negotiate a price because that's well, especially the time is valuable to me now. The Bound for the Sticks, I hope to have done within a couple of weeks, the first draft, before I send it to my editor for approval. And is the Association of Ishtar an open setting for publication purposes? Well, the idea is that people can submit their stories whenever. So yeah, if you call that publication, yes. Essentially, like I said, the original idea was to make it a collaborative universe. It has not really happened yet, although we do have one contributed story by Mark Brandon, who wrote The Colossus of the Femmes. So yeah, go check it out. If you are a Robert E. Howard fan, you are gonna love his story. It's very Robert E. Howard from the word go. And yeah. Yeah, you can join, you can participate. If you don't want to contribute stories, you contribute in other ways. We are open to art and stuff. If you are an artist who wants to make art, let me know. I'm always looking for new artists as well. Yeah, I do a lot, folks. I can go on for hours on what I do and what I want and my ambitions, and you know. So let's call it quits.
You're like me. Once you get fired up, you know it's hard to stop you, right?
Yeah, and please leave review. If you buy the book on Amazon, please leave reviews.
Yes, definitely. That should be required of everyone who buys a book on Amazon. So anyway, we had a couple other questions. Brian, maybe we'll have Bonsart back and you can ask your questions then. How does that sound? And Brian, if you're looking for a guest, a him. Bonsart Bokel, thank you very much for being here, my friend.
And thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate it. And please, I'm going to put you in the background. Stick around so I can say goodbye to you properly, okay?
Right.
All right. I'm going to mute you here. And thank you again. Check out Radioretrofuture. Let me get that. Radioretrofuture Research Foundation on YouTube. Also, associationofishtar.com on the interwebs, and please check out the amazing work this man does. And speaking of amazing, thank you all for your great comments and your questions, and thank you to our Patreon subscribers who help make shows like this possible. And if you want to see what your monthly financial support of the Rising Tide will get you, go to www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris. And this show has been brought to you by Rising Tide Publications. Check out The Terrors coming later this summer in paperback and digital form, and probably more if we have our way. And also Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you. What draws you to a great book? It's obviously a great cover, right? And if you want one of the best in the industry, you want to contact Jeffrey Hayes. Check out the Plasma Fire Graphics Facebook page, and then zoom on over to his page of plasmafiregraphics.com and check out all the print samples there and inquire about his indie creator friendly rates. You'll be glad you did, and so will the rest of the world when they check out your work. All right, that's plasmafiregraphics.com, when the look of your book matters to you, because it definitely matters to your readers. And again, thank you to our great audience here. Thank you for your fantastic questions and comments. We'll have Bonsart back sometime, I promise. And we will be back Friday with our regular format of you talking, me talking back at you. And don't forget, tomorrow night is Comic Book Spectrum at 7 p.m. with Eric S. Hawkins, Clyde Hall, Brian Rodman, and Joe D. McPhee, and myself reviewing the latest comic releases. Go to your local comic shop today and get you some comics. You'll be glad you did. And again, and Natasha Clausen is here. Willow Schuyler, our channels on Roku and Android TV. We also have Bonsart's content and are in the process of developing one of his stories for film, and we'll be basing a series on the Association of Ishtar. Natasha, thank you for being here. We appreciate you so much. And thank you for that information. Thank you for popping in here and sharing it with us. And thank you for watching. Whether you're watching us live or on the reruns, we do appreciate you all. If you're watching on the reruns, leave us a comment down below and I'll try to reply to you. And also, please like, share, and subscribe. If you are on YouTube especially, if you've enjoyed any part of this or plan to, please give us a thumbs up on this video, and please share it with your friends that are into steampunk or you think would like it. And also, please subscribe to this channel, because the more subscribers, the bigger the party gets to be. And so we're going to close this out now, and we'll see you tomorrow night on Comic Book Spectrum, definitely Friday morning on Nevermind the Furthermore Live. And as always, folks, stay smart, stay safe, wash your hands, and never apologize for being awesome. Have a great hump day, everyone, and stay steampunky, okay? Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Nevermind the Furthermore, a Rising Tide broadcast network production. If you enjoyed any part of this show, please give it a like or a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and consider becoming one of our Patreon supporters. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Nevermind the Furthermore.